Friday is the day today, and of course this is the breakfast show, a show that comes to your screen every morning from Monday to Saturday, where we discuss a lot of pertinent issues happening in our country. I am your host this morning, Prudence Chota, and without having to waste much of your time, we are directly going to go into our morning boost, where we are going to exercise. Remember, Camnet TV cares for you. That's why we do bring the morning boost for you, so that you can exercise along with us in order for you to live a fit and healthy life. So let us go into our morning boost, and I hope you will exercise along with us.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chol. We're from Cho's Fitness Gym. We're a fully functional gym located along Twin Palm Road in Kablonga, right by Cheshire Homes Society of Zambia. So we have various classes that happen from Monday to Friday. We have aerobics, we have boot camp, we have step aerobics, we have spinning, we have kettlebell classes. They happen from 18 to 19 hours every day, and we are open from 06 until 20 hours. That's Monday to Friday. Then Saturdays 6 to 12, and then Sundays we are closed, and most public holidays we are open 6 to 12. So you're welcome to visit and come and train with us. And for now, I'll show you certain exercises you could do from. Thank you. Hi ladies and gentlemen, Cholwe again here. I'm going to show you a few exercises you can do to get you fit, to get the blood pumping. So with every set of exercises, you need to start first with stretch, which is very, so we'll do a few stretches, and you place your hands together and touch the floor, and you can hold it for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you can go side to side, you twist. That's 1. We're gonna go for 10, 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, that's 7, that's 8, that's 9, and 10. All right, then you're gonna place your hands like this from the back, hands behind, and then you're gonna stretch that back and hold it for 10 seconds. That's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you wanna stretch, hands behind and stretch. That's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we can go for 10 here. That's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then behind, that's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you can stretch your feet. Just hold it for 10 seconds. If balancing is hard, you can always hold somewhere. So hold it for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then the other side, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay. So the first exercise we'll do 1 minute. This one is good. Basic jumping on the up and back with the hands. We'll go for 1 minute, and make sure your hands touch. So modified version, if you can't jump, you can always go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to show you the full jump in just a minute. 6, 8, 9, 40, 41, 42, 43. Okay, that is 1 minute. That's approximately 55. So the next one are push-ups. We'll do the modified push-ups. So we'll go for 1 minute of push-ups as well. So with the modified version, you want to place your knees in this position, move to the front. Here we go. All right, and you go down. So the key is for your elbows to point out. That's 2. This is the modified version. Like that. If you can't see from this angle, I'm gonna turn. Like that, modified. If that's too hard, place your feet on the ground and go like that. So you put the push-ups for 1 minute. And now I go into the full push-up. Go down, stretch. Stretch. I like to breathe when I go up. Others, you can go as fast as you can.
That was our morning boost, and I hope you have exercised along with us. Exercising is very important for your health. A healthy nation relies on the healthy people. That's why we bring the morning boost into the comfort of your home. If you're unable to exercise along with us during this particular time, you can do it at any time, because this program is being streamed live on our Facebook page, and you can go just to our Facebook page on that particular segment, exercise along with us. Talking about having a healthy life, we also bring you the Doctor's Corner, where our doctor talks about a lot of illnesses with regards to what happens in a human body. I know a lot of people suffer from different illnesses such as diabetes. We know we've got people with BP, with sugar. How do you live a healthy life even with such conditions? Others are living with HIV, others are living with many kind of illnesses. So on this particular segment, the doctors talk about different things, and you have a lot to learn. If you have a particular topic that you would like us to discuss, you can also send us a text message and just notify us to say, I would like the doctor to speak about this particular illness. Throughout the course of the week, the doctor will do that, and I hope it will change your life. So right about now, we are going to go into the Doctor's Corner.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya. This week we have been talking about prostate cancer, and on the 4th of February this week we are commemorating World Cancer Day. So we decided to talk about cancer this week. So we highlighted this week that prostate cancer comes about when there is a lot of cell growth that is growing in the prostate, more than the cells are dying in the prostate, and that there are certain mutations that can also occur in the genes that can accelerate this growth of the cells and lead to someone having prostate cancer. So we also say that some of the risk factors of prostate cancer include age. If you're age 65 and above, you're more likely to have prostate cancer than other people. And also family history. If you have a family history of cancer, where someone in the family had prostate cancer or even other cancers like breast cancer, you are also at risk of having prostate cancer. Then we also say that diet can play a role as well in you having cancer. If you eat a lot of foods that have more sugar and more fats, you're also increasing your chances of having prostate cancer. Then we also highlighted the types of prostate cancer that are there. The most common types are adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. Then we say that people who have prostate cancer can have certain symptoms like having urinary problems. When they go to the toilet to urinate, they might be feeling the urge to urinate, but when they go to urinate, the urine is very little that is coming out, and also the stream of the urine might be very weak than normal. Then they might also experience pain or urine with blood. So they might have blood in the urine, which we call hematuria. They might also have back pain because of where the prostate is located. They might experience back pain. They may also experience weight loss. So you might notice that somebody is losing weight more than they usually do. Or they might be fatigued. They might be feeling tired and just feeling sick most of the time because of the condition that they might be having. So it's important for you to get screened, and we say that the screening is done in the hospital, where some tests can be done. A PSA test can be done to check if the prostate is functioning well or not. And also a DRE can be done, which is a digital rectal exam that can also check whether the prostate is bigger in size or not. You can also do an ultrasound, even though it's not very specific, but more importantly, you can also do a biopsy, which where you get a certain portion of the prostate to test, to check the cells that are there in the prostate, what type of cells are there, and are they cancerous, and at what stage are they if they're cancerous. So when the staging is done of the cancer, then it's able, the doctors are able to ascertain or to know what treatment to give the patient depending on the stage of the cancer that is there. So treatment options include radiotherapy and also hormonal therapy, and more importantly, it can be removed, so they can do a removal of the prostate in the hospital through surgery. So today we'll talk about how you can prevent yourself from having cancer. So first of all, it's important to understand that when the prostate cancer has developed to a very advanced stage, it can spread to other parts of the body. And some of the parts that it spreads to the bladder, it can spread to the bladder. It can also spread to the seminal vesicles. Seminal vesicles are another gland that are found in men and also help to produce semen as well. So it can spread to the seminal vesicles. It can also spread to the bones. And because it spreads to the bones, you might find that people who have prostate cancer might also have symptoms of pain in the bones. So they might be having pain in the bone. So they might be feeling pain whenever you touch them, maybe at a certain point in the bone, they might feel pain. So that is how prostate cancer can spread. It can spread mostly to the bladder and the seminal vesicles, and more importantly to the bones. So how can you prevent yourself from having prostate cancer? As we have already highlighted, some of the risk factors are that diet needs to be checked. What are you eating? You need to be able to control your diet, eat foods that are good for your health. These include more fruits and more vegetables in your diet, and reducing on the amount of fats that you take in your diet, and sugar as well. So increase your fruits in your vegetables, reduce on the saturated fats that come from mostly animal meat, which is mostly cow meat, and pork as well. You can eat more lean meats like fish and chicken. They have less fat. So it's important that you check what you're eating, and eat healthy food as well. Eat more fiber in your diet, eat more nuts in your diet, and eat more foods that have good nutrition for you to be able to prevent yourself from having cancer. The other thing is you need to start being more active than usual. If you are inactive and you're not keeping your body active, your cells are not using up energy, and so you might find that they might start using that energy for growing and causing cancer. So it's important that you might you keep your body active and exercise at least 3 times in a week, or even more than that. You can exercise for 30 minutes every day, for about 3 to 5 times in a week, or even 6 times if you can. So that is how you can prevent prostate cancer. The other thing that you need to consider is if you smoke tobacco and drink alcohol, then you need to start reducing on that. And if you're able to stop smoking tobacco, then you should consider stopping smoking tobacco and also stopping taking alcohol, because they increase the risk of having cancer and even other conditions as well. So these are things that you can do to prevent yourself from having prostate cancer, and also prevent yourself from having other cancers as well, and even other lifestyle diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart diseases, stroke. So it's important for you to live a healthy lifestyle, for you to be able to live healthy and choose healthy foods and choose healthy activities that will increase your chances of not getting ill and getting certain diseases. So this week we talked about prostate cancer, and I do hope that you learned something from what we have talked about this week, and hope to see you again next week. Happy World Cancer Day.
There you have it. How to prevent prostate cancer was the topic this morning. I hope we have learned 1 or 2 things. I'm happy the doctor also spoke about the aspect of exercising. At least exercise 3 times in a week if you can, and of course exercise for about 30 minutes. Very important. These are small issues that sometimes we don't take seriously, but they are very important for our health. Then she also mentioned the fact that if you do smoke tobacco, I think it's time you have to reconsider the decision to stop smoking, because it might lead to you having prostate cancer and you might kick the bucket before your time. I know a lot of time people have argued to say if it is your time, you will die, but there are certain times that you can prevent any death or going to the grave early if you can do just the things that the doctors talk about. So you can stop maybe drinking too much, you can stop smoking if you do take tobacco, and of course exercise and do what the doctor was telling us this morning. Very important there. So right about now also we are going to go into our money market to see how is it that our local currency is performing against other major convertibles. I know Kwacha has come under pressure for some time now, and yesterday the Bank of Zambia did on Monday, did issue a circular to all heads of bank on the interventions that they are putting in place to ensure that they stabilize our currency. So there you have it. The Zambian kwacha against the US dollar is buying at 18 kwacha 95 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 33 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro is buying at 20 kwacha 82 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 23 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha 12 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 14 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the Great British Pound is buying at 23 kwacha 36 ngwe and selling at 23 kwacha 82 ngwe. So that is our money market for this morning. I know kwacha, they are not doing quite as we expect it to be doing, but of course yesterday we did see a circular that has been issued to almost all the heads of the central bank, where the Bank of Zambia is doing some interventions to prevent the further depreciation of the Zambian currency. What am I talking about? So the Central Bank of Zambia has adjusted the minimum statutory ratio on both local and foreign currency deposits by 2.5 percentage point as of Monday, February 13th, 2023, in an effort to address the depreciation of the Zambian kwacha, which has intensified. The statutory ratio has been adjusted upwards from 9% to 11.5%, and the increment will also apply to government deposits and virtual account deposit. This is contained in a memo dated February 1st, 2023, addressed to all heads of commercial banks and signed by BOZ Deputy Governor Francis Chipimo, seen by Camnet television. And Mr. Chipimo says the foreign exchange market has also come under sustained depreciation pressure despite the central bank's support for the market through sales of forex proceeds, mostly from mining companies. So the bank, of course, has been selling some forex there, but this also has not been enough despite these interventions. He also says the market has been characterized by weak forex supply amid strong demand for market players for various purposes, including critical imports of fuel, medicines, and agriculture imports. We know fuel is also a topical issue. It has been increased by, of course, the Energy Regulation Board, and we are seeing that there was so much demand for forex, but the country is not supplying as much as is needed. So the Deputy Governor says the trend, if under-addressed, has the potential to undermine the emerging stable economic environment that the government is putting in place. So that is the intervention that the Bank of Zambia has put in place. It has adjusted the minimum statutory ratio by 2.5% for all the deposits, and of course others as well. So we hope these interventions, and of course Mr. Chipimo did say the risks outweigh the outcome that they want to see. So there are risks, of course, but they are saying they are hoping for the best. So that is one of the story that we had in the news yesterday, and I hope you've seen. It is, of course, going around on social media and other platforms where you can find that information. So the kwacha has been under pressure, and the central bank is acting to ensure that it caters for the pressure. Then yesterday we also had some of the stories that made headline in our news. We have come to that point where we zoom in some of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday. So what is it that we had in the news? So the Ministry of Health has bemoaned the decline in levels of discipline among health practitioners. Speaking at the Health Professional Council of Zambia stakeholders meeting in Lusaka Thursday, Ministry Director of Clinical Care and Diagnostic, Dr. Alex Makupe, says the caliber of health workers being offloaded on the market leaves much to be desired. Dr. Makupe has cited poor dress code among health practitioners and a bad attitude towards work as being one of the visible wrongs that now seem normal because discipline levels have declined. So that was Dr. Makupe yesterday, where he was addressing the trainers of these health practitioners, and he cited an example to say most of the time in the past when you go in health facilities, just by the way a doctor is dressed, you will definitely know to say this is a doctor. But now a doctor goes at work in a t-shirt and in a jean and in a sneaker. You cannot even identify who's the doctor and who's the patient. The only thing that is differentiating them is because he's putting on a white coat. So he spoke to a number of things, and I know a lot of you watching out there would somehow agree with what the doctor said yesterday. And of course, we've also seen the attitude towards work is depreciating. He was also speaking to the fact that a long time you'd find that when a patient or a student knows they are supposed to maybe do a practical in surgeon, they would be on time even before their supervisor comes. But this time it's different. The supervisor is there before the student, and when a student comes, is asking, what is this? When they could have learned because they were late. So a lot of things were spoken yesterday, and I hope to hear from you, the viewer out there, if you agree with what Dr. Makupe said yesterday. So we are going to zoom into this story that made headline in our news. Stay tuned.
Health practitioners are a very important caregivers in society, and their role can never go unappreciated. However, professionalism among health workers has been dwindling with time, and the Ministry of Health is disappointed to see the decline in the levels of discipline among health practitioners in Zambia. Ministry Director of Clinical Care and Diagnostic, Dr. Alex Makupe, who spoke at the Health Professional Council of Zambia HPCZ consultative meeting in Lusaka Thursday, says the quality of health professionals being modeled in the country leaves much to be desired.
We've seen, for us end users, a decline in the discipline amongst the cadres that you give us. And it starts from training. And when I run hospitals, I would tell the students that you don't come into the ward with a carnival. You don't come into the ward with dressed in a trousers that straight goes into the femur and the fibula. You know, that kind of dressing. The dressing should give confidence to the patient that now I've met the doctor just by the way one is dressing. Nowadays you see medical students coming in with t-shirts.
And Dr. Makupe also says quality training for health practitioners is very important and says the country is full of theoretical practitioners as opposed to practical professionals, thereby urging trainers to ensure that they offer quality training to health professionals as their work borders on human lives.
It's now that you can be conducting a ward round and having a bedside teaching that a student can pick a phone from the pocket and still proceed to answer in your presence. As a consultant, proceed to answer that call. And when we've grown and they're starting to come into theater, even among those that we are training as surgeons, students went in first before the consultant moved in. That the junior doctors, the registrars and senior registrars were already cutting the skin and starting to do the basic things before the consultant comes in to finish off. But nowadays, it's the student who finds you in theater and asks you, "Sir, what case is this one?" With quality, it therefore means that we bring in a cadre that is always willing to support the patient. It's possible that we can train a cadre who runs away from an ambulance when it's coming.
Meanwhile, HPCZ Acting Chief Executive Officer Faston Ngoma also added his voice.
We will assure you that quality is definitely going to change, and we will provide to the health sector the best quality of healthcare professionals as we can, within what we are able to provide. All the colleges in their applications to start training programs assure us of their capacity to do what is right.
Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it. That was Ministry of Health Director Clinical Care, Dr. Makupe, who was speaking at the Health Professional Council of Zambia, HPCZ consultative meeting yesterday, where he was speaking to the fact that there has been a decline in discipline levels among health workers, and that can also be noticed in the way they are dressing when they go for work and stuff like that. I know you have maybe comments that you'd like to pass on that particular story, but we are running out of time, so we are not going to pick any calls on that particular one. But if you have a comment that you have to pass, please do send it us. Do send it to us on our Facebook page. This program is being streamed live on our Facebook page, so you can contribute. And of course, we will make Zambia a better place. If at all, we are contributing to a lot of pertinent issues that are happening in our country. Speaking to that, in the studio this morning, I am joined by the Civil Society for Poverty Reduction Executive Director, and we are discussing CDF and its impact on poverty eradication. Is this the solution to the increasing population? Sir, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much for hosting us, and good morning to the Camnet viewers as well.
Of course. I know this is the first time that we are hosting you on Camnet TV. Yeah, and we look forward to having a fruitful discussion on this particular topic. I know the aspect of poverty and its eradication in the country has been, of course, a nominal topic that yes, a lot of people have been talking about. Civil Society for Poverty Reduction. What is it about? Tell us a little bit about your organization and the things that you do, so that even as we are discussing, our viewer out there can understand your role in helping Zambia attain its visions.
All right, thank you so much. Definitely such a privilege for us to share with you what our organization is about. The Civil Society for Poverty NGOs across Zambia who are working towards advocating that the government should prioritize the reduction of poverty. So ultimately, we want to see a Zambia where all the citizens are able to afford or are able to meet their basic needs, but more importantly, that they are empowered to claim for those basic needs to those who are tasked with the responsibility to reduce poverty. And how do we do this? We do this through, obviously, first looking at where the decisions are being made. if it's in terms of resources, meaning we do what we call advocacy within the civil society circles. This just means us making demands and frequently following up, mobilizing private citizens so that they're able to engage with the government to make sure that the few resources that we have are prioritized for things that are going to help reduce poverty, help people's livelihoods, improve how much people are earning. So in that scenario, because we know poverty has got different faces, it means we are looking at a broader range of factors which contribute to poverty in Zambia. So we are looking at education. People must be educated so that they are able to earn a livelihood, but also so that they have knowledge to take advantage of government opportunities. We are working in health because we know also, if a person is healthy, then they're able to be productive. We are working in social protection where we are focusing at what are the measures or things that the government has put in place to protect the poor from being more affected in case we have a shock like we had the COVID-19, we've got floods, we've got economic shocks. So we're looking at what is programs as government put in place for the vulnerable. We are working in agriculture because we know that the poorest of workers are found within the agriculture sector, but we are also working in the water, sanitation and hygiene sector because we know also when people who are poor in most instances also don't have access to clean and safe drinking water. And lastly, we are working on rural infrastructure to look at how is the government prioritizing infrastructure, because this is very important even for people who are poor to access certain services. So meaning, in that scenario, you can tell that we are working both with the government to try and come up with programs and policies and budgets that respond to the needs of the poorest and vulnerable in our society. But we're also working with the communities or the poor themselves to see to it that they're able to demand for improved services that can help their livelihood.
Civil Society for Poverty Reduction Executive Director Mr. A.D. Musosa is with us in studio, and we are discussing CDF and its impact on poverty eradication. Is this the solution to the increasing population? Those watching us in the comfort of your home, or maybe you are in your office, you're watching us, and of course maybe you're traveling, you're watching us on your gadget or wherever you are, this platform gives you an opportunity to call, make those contributions and submissions. If you are unable to get to us, you can send us a message on our Facebook page and we will be able to respond to those concerns. Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, I know Mr. Musosa here has spoken about what they do as an organization, but one thing we should also realize is Zambia's population is now confirmed to be at 19.47 million people according to the just ended census of housing and population, yet poverty levels are not yet confirmed because the latest poverty level survey has not yet been released. And of course, talking about the population where we are, Mr. Musosa, poverty levels in Zambia, where are we at? I do understand the poverty survey, the latest one, has not yet been released. And I think last week I did speak to the Zambia Statistics Agency and they confirmed that they are done with the statistics, but they are just doing data cleaning. And of course, they are working hand in hand with the World Bank. But when we talk about the levels of poverty in Zambia, just from what you have on the ground, where are we at?
All right. First of all, I'm the programs manager.
Oh, pardon me.
I'm here to speak on with the authority from the executive director.
Oh, yeah.
But coming back to your very, very important question in terms of where are we in poverty, there is the statistics side. Statistics numbers are very important because then it means we have got close to reliable information that we've counted the number of people who are below the poverty line or those who are above the poverty line, those who are managing how many meals they're eating per day, so that even when you're coming up with any programs to help which are to do with poverty reduction, you know who you are going to target. And like you have rightly put it, the current statistics we have date as far back as to 2015. And then you've already indicated that the government, I said they're in the process of hoping to release the latest statistics by middle of the year. So there is that component. But we can speak more to the trends. There's been some trends in terms of just using projections based on the poverty rates in the country as computed earlier. And we can confirm that most reports by private entities, not government, have indicated that, you know, with the COVID-19, the economic downturn in the country, more Zambians have become poor than the 54% that we are looking at in 2015. And more Zambians have become extremely poor than the 40-something percent that we are looking at in 2015. And it's very clear before you even get the statistics. And why we are saying that is we've seen shock after shock in this country for the last 5 years. It's either natural disasters, we had the COVID-19, and you see with the COVID-19, it brought about what we call the emerging poor or the new poor. Those people, for example, who became poor as a result of COVID-19 effects, for example, due to reduced income levels, due to loss of employment, and even those who lost a breadwinner in the household, they became poor as a result of COVID-19. But there were also those people who are just considered to be ordinarily poor, but then when COVID-19 came, they became extremely poor because maybe some of the sectors that were affected by the COVID-19 affected their income. And currently, our observation in most of the communities that we're working in as CSPR is that there is need for much more, that the demand for people to receive social protection and not a program, but to be provided with social safety nets has increased. Almost everywhere you go, people are saying, you know, we need support in this area, need support in that area. And I don't think the situation has improved over the last couple of years. So what we can just confirm is that definitely the poverty levels in Zambia have been going up since 2015. And when we say poverty levels, we talk about people have been becoming poor through loss of income. And this is based on some of the factors that I have mentioned.
Okay, I know you have already responded to almost what I wanted to ask you here. What would you attribute the high poverty levels to the country to? Because I know you've spoken to the fact that over this particular period when we had shocks, some families, of course, and some people have become poor. But we saw this trend even before these shocks came into effect. So this is where we're asking the question to say, why do you think these high poverty levels in the country, what would you attribute them to?
Like you have said, there are a number of factors to this. First of all, there is the triggers, more like the shocks themselves. And by shock, I mean any bad event that happens and forces people and results in people losing their income or people being unable to respond to further challenges, and it affects how much they are earning as a household, how much they are eating, how much they are able to afford to pay for goods and services. These events have included climate events. 2016, 2017, 18, we had dry spells hitting almost the entire southern region of the country. People in Gwembe were feeding on wild fruits. In the northern part of the country, people were experiencing floods. Then the challenge around that period was the government's capacity to respond to those events. The government did not have adequate capacity then. And it came at a time when the donors also froze their support to the social cash transfer program, which is a flagship poverty reduction program by the government. We were failing to release 100% of the funds that we had put in the budget. If we said we are going to spend so much on youth empowerment, we are not releasing all the funds. We know that even the Constituency Development Fund at that time was not being released 100%. So there was those bad events which made more people poorer, or people already poor, extremely poor. plus coupled with the inability for us as a country to support those people, because when we see that people are going to go to a certain level, we need to quickly bring in something that can save them from that. Post 2017, 2019, you could see that by 2019, 2020, 2021, even part of 2022, we had the COVID-19. The COVID-19 ravaged every sector of the country. Every component of the economy was affected. It was affected either through the pressure that was put on the health sector, but also health-wise, we lost a lot of people. That is something you cannot run away from. Just like HIV and AIDS, the people we lost also created orphans and vulnerable children. They left behind widows. It affected the individual households. So COVID-19 was even worse because then even people's businesses, they lost out. People could not trade. People are being told to stay at home. The people who are buying, for example, from the marketeers, because in most instances, marketeers are not as well or are not really the middle income people, but the middle income people who are working maybe like you and me, we had to now, we had to tighten our budget. We're not spending as much.
Marketeers make quite good amount of money. If you speak to some of them who will say,
yes,
just vegetables and tomatoes.
Yes, but remember, they are buying from smallholder farmers who are growing in the rural area. And the population statistics spoke to show that most people are in the rural area, but the majority of the poor are in the rural area. So those people they are buying from, if you don't give business to those marketeers, whether they are well off or not, they also reduce the quantities that they are buying. So even trade was affected. But we also know that movements were restricted. Places like Lusaka, where there's a lot of business, were hotspots for COVID-19. So those farm producers from Central Province, from Chongwe District, from Southern Province, from these parts of Mombwa, were scared to come to Lusaka. But even as they were coming, there were a lot of restrictions who are in trade, like the informal marketeers. They lost out. And all that, depending on whatever dimension of poverty you are looking at, it resulted, either you look at the aspect of people not being able to access services adequately, it significantly affected them. So those were some of the triggers. But we also know as a result of COVID-19 that people lost employment. Projects, fund investments that were supposed to come to Zambia were held back. People said, let's wait for the COVID-19 situation. Not because borders, for example, were closed. Travel restrictions were very stiff. They were very strict. And you find that investors said, we will not be able to provide investments. So there are people who had mega projects that should have created employment and employment that should have created money for other people. Even in the NGO sector, there were certain projects which had to be put on hold because of COVID-19. So all that contributed. But again, I'll come back to the point is our inability as a country, because even when the COVID-19 came, it found us economic-wise at a very vulnerable point. And our inability now to respond to help those poor people is what actually has even worsened the situation.
The situation.
Yeah.
Okay, Civil Society for Poverty Reduction Programs Coordinator, Mr. Edim Musosa, is with us in studio this morning, and we are discussing the CDF and its impact on poverty eradication. Is this the solution to the increasing population? Zambia's population, as it stands, is at 19.4 million people, according to the just ended statistics. But what we've seen, as of 2015, 54% of the population was in poverty. And this percentage could go high looking at what has happened between 2015 and now. So the question we are asking is CDF the solution to the increasing population in Zambia? But before Mr. Musosa can also speak to that, we know we've got this aspect of social cash transfer program. I do understand that this particular fund has been here for quite some time, and its intended purpose is to help the vulnerable. And of course, sometimes people with disability, those who are unable to make it, the elderly, the aged. Can you say this program is helping tackle the poverty situation in our country? social cash transfer? I know it was there then, it is there now, even in this administration, but even when it was there, poverty levels were still high. I know this year it's been done differently, and they're being paid almost at a particular time when they have to. Can we say social cash transfer program is helping eliminate poverty levels in our country?
There are two effects that the social cash transfer is going to have on poverty. There is the aspect of the household poverty. Yes, social cash transfer has proved to have an effect on the beneficiaries' poverty status. So you find that, when people, that amount, it is small, we acknowledge that, and we have been advocating as a civil society for poverty reduction that we must continue increasing this amount. If possible, every year we must be increasing it at a certain percentage. So for the beneficiaries, you are going to find that yes, it does, because in the rural setup, the people benefit from the social cash transfer. They're extremely poor, and when you say extremely poor, these are people who live below the poverty line. Now we're saying, for example, if the poverty line is $2, you are earning $2 a day. That's around, with the current rate, maybe that's around 40 kwacha. You would find that it doesn't mean because you are below the poverty line, then you're earning 39 kwacha. There are people who don't even earn anything a day. So how are they going to survive? These are households which cannot even afford to grow something. Maybe this is an old widow. She doesn't have the strength to be as productive. So she depends on begging from communities. And a lot of case studies have been done. These households, when they receive this funding, some of them, they use, maybe if it's a 200 kwacha, to buy some produce, like some tomatoes and some salt, some tea leaves. They start selling in the village. Others will use that same small amount to hire people to dig their farm, and they'll grow something. So yes, it does help in most communities. However, whether it has got a huge impact on poverty levels, we highly doubt that as the Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, because the social cash transfer addresses the income poverty. It does not necessarily address all the multidimensional aspects of poverty. You get it. That is why, in recognition of that, the government has said, let's modify it to what they are calling the cash plus. So a household that is receiving social cash transfer support is going to benefit from other programs. For example, the child from that household is also going to be paid for at school. They'll be helped with their learning materials. But also, if they have that house is also going to receive food security pack. Food security pack is just like FISIP, but it is given for free. You don't contribute anything. So they'll be given farming inputs like seeds, some fertilizer. So that means, because of the multidimensional nature of poverty, poverty is not just as a result of people lacking money. There are other challenges which result in people, because even that money you can give them, but you realize that maybe in the household they don't have, none of the children are going to school, so they may not spend that money on education. And as a result, when the person who is the direct beneficiary of the cash transfer passes on, the poverty will continue. So there are other interventions that we need to significantly reduce the poverty levels in the country. And that is why, even amidst all these shocks, the social cash transfer was not adequate. No wonder we are saying, as a civil society organizations, that we need to invest heavily in other social protection programs. And I expect, and almost when we have discussions like this, the social cash transfer is the old one which comes. There are a number of social protection programs, even the loans and bursary scheme for students in universities and colleges. That's a social protection intervention. This NEMA is a social protection intervention. When you talk about youth economic empowerment funds, That's a social protection intervention. When you talk about the public welfare assistance scheme, because sometimes people can experience a shock that just makes them vulnerable suddenly. Just imagine a farmer they've grown, they were okay, they were able to afford feeding, and then the rains just come like that, they wash them away. So we must also have shock responsive social protection programs. At that point, that farmer doesn't need social cash transfer. What they will need are probably farming inputs, or if maybe a poor household experiences fire. So we must look at the whole social protection programs. How is the government funding them equally and not just concentrating on the social cash transfer? Because again, remember, the social cash transfer aims to target those people who are absolutely poor, extremely poor. So what of those who are not extremely poor, but they are poor, like the people who are, most of them are staying in Lusaka, who lost their jobs during COVID-19? Are they receiving social cash transfer? No. So we need other social protection programs to support those kind of people, because they are vulnerable now, they are poor. So we can't wait until you become completely poor, that's when you benefit. Let's support other programs for them. Yeah.
I like that point. I know you've gone ahead of some of the things that I wanted to say. Government has now increased CDF allocation from 1.6 million kwacha to 28.3 million kwacha as of 2023. Among the components of CDF is education, in boarding bursaries, we have empowerment funds, and other stuff accompanied to this.
Yeah.
Can you say this is a game changer that government needed to help fight poverty in the country?
Yes, definitely. The Enhanced Constituency Development Fund provides an opportunity for us to have locally led solutions to poverty reduction. You see, the unique design of the CDF, not just now, the way it was designed even through the 2018 legislation, is that unlike this funding which comes through, for example, the school, like the education setup or the health setup, money is flowing from the Ministry of Education, then it goes to the provincial office, from the provincial office, then it goes to the district, from the district, then it goes to the school. So it goes through all these bureaucracies. The CDF, by the way, is not the only money which goes to the community. There is the central government funding, which trickles through the various bureaucracies and service delivery systems in government. But with the CDF, it goes directly to the local authorities, and people are able to access that if they are eligible for it. So definitely, the way the CDF has been enhanced, it is a game change. And because also of the different components that it takes into consideration and it's going to support, it is going to translate into community-driven development. So citizens are able to decide to say, okay, for us, this is the development we need in our community. That said, for anything to work, there should be a condition. The efficient utilization of the CDF then becomes very critical. Transparency and efficiency in the management of the CDF are important, are very, very important pillars that should support its implementation. One, if the local authorities are transparent in how the CDF is being managed, including the people who are benefiting, it is very easy. Where we have a challenge in the management of the CDF, we can quickly come up with a solution. But we can also curb the mismanagement, we can prevent the mismanagement of the fund. Because people will know that at the end of the day, we are going to account for these funds. People will know that at the end of the day, we should be able to take stock, how much have we spent and what is the impact. But also, accountability means that if the goal of the CDF, for example, is to reduce rural poverty or to reduce any form of poverty, we are going to hold the government accountable to say, we've spent so much on the CDF. Has poverty really been reducing? And then we'll say, okay, maybe the reason why it is reducing or not reducing, these are the following factors. Secondly, the efficiency of the CDF. Right now we're in the second month of the financial year. And if we go all the way up to June, none of the projects have been approved. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to create a lot of it's going to distort how the CDF is being utilized, for example. You know, money works. People say time is money, but money is also time. If the funds are released on time, if someone starts a project today in February or in March, by the end of the year, you should be able to see how much progress they've made. But if funds are not coming, if funds are coming are delaying, not only to go to the local government authorities, but for citizens to access them. Last year we had a situation where Minister of Finance was releasing money on time, and then they were saying, no, we've reached 50% of the money is gone. You go at the district levels, you start finding that only 10% has actually been accessed. So the late accessing of those funds, now the Minister of Finance said, no, we're not going to withhold or recall any money that was not spent in 2023. Treasury is going to sit with that the money is given a no-cost extension, maybe for the year a cost extension for the year 2023, the one we're in. So we should be efficient in how the money, citizens should be able to access the money on time. Otherwise, we're going to be having a lot of money being spent here and there. It's the same as a social cash transfer. If you're going to keep people 6 months without receiving their cash transfer, then you come and give them at a later stage, the impact will not be felt, because they would have been so poor that such that when the money comes, they would have gotten into all these debts. Same with the Constituent Development Fund. If citizens' projects are not, for example, being approved on time, if they are not getting the money on time, you may find that by the time they're accessing the money, that project can't take off because of the change in the seasons. So there are conditions to CDF having an impact on poverty reduction. The first one is transparency. Those who are benefiting and those who are managing the funds, they must be accountable to the communities. 2, efficiency. Both the disbursements and the utilization of the funds must be done in a timely manner. Thirdly, we must invest more in ensuring that communities are directly involved in the planning and designing of projects that are going to be funded at the community level. Yeah.
If you were to rate the performance of CDF in 2022, where would you put them at, and why would you say that?
Since you haven't given me a scale, I'll not necessarily rate it, but what I would say is it's at different layers. I would look more at central government. They did a tremendous job in terms of ensuring that funds were available and funds were released on time. But also the Treasury decided to say, let's increase the CDF in 2022 and even in 2023. So definitely as central government, that's tremendous work. We say they're on track, they achieved the goal. But it's at the local government level where I would say they didn't do well, honestly. And we saw that frequently you would have the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development coming to blame people. People are not accessing the fund because of this and that. Then you would have this other minister saying, no, we can't access the funding because the approval process of the project is highly centralized. Everything has to be approved in Lusaka. But also it was discovered that when you go at the local level, because some of the procurement requirements entail that you need to get the contractor or you need to procure from within the local, from within the locality. But you go in some constituencies, it was discovered, or district, it was discovered that some of them may not even have they were not economically competitive. Because we know that most contractors, they are concentrated here in Lusaka if it comes to construction. But even certain, for example, you may talk about you want to procure ICT equipment. If you go in these areas, how many ICT shops are you going to find if you go, for example, to Kaputa constituency, or just in Mfumbwe district? So there was that challenge, and we felt the local government was not, they were not sincere enough to own up in the early stages. And one of the challenges, again, is that even when the government decided to modify or enhance the CDF, it was not a consultative process. We just said the CDF has been increased through the national budget speech of which was presented in 2021, It's a good thing, we all applauded, but there were concerns around. But even when they were designing this, who did they consult? Did they take time to listen to stakeholders' views? And trust me, had they done that, would have been amending the act last year. But because we decided just say, go ahead, increase, release the funds, we're talking about amending the act when a lot of, we had stagnated on how those funds were going to be accessed. So again, it is very important because had the act been amended, like the way Parliament cannot amend an act, they have to ensure that they invite stakeholders. So even on this CDF Act, they've invited stakeholders to make submissions. But then the challenge is that when the government decided to enhance this CDF, they did not consult with stakeholders to say, we're going to increase the budget, the guidelines were just developed, we're just seeing guidelines which were improved upon. So we are happy that they realized that, although it was a bit late, and with money, obviously, we have to look at the loss that was made. Because look at it this way, Madam. At the time those CDF funds were budgeted for last year when they were supposed to be disbursed, for those who didn't access the funds in 2022, our local currency was trading somewhere, say, $1 was equivalent to 17 kwacha. So those who didn't access their CDF then, they were able to benefit from that appreciation of the currency. But now those who didn't access, and we've been told they will be extended through into 2023. Imagine how much they are going to be buying the goods and services. Meanwhile, you had already prepared your project, you had already budgeted to say this is what we'll spend. But because of challenges of the project not being approved on time, by the time the project is being approved, you have to start revising your budget. So that is why we are saying it's very important that funds should be accessed on time so that a project, a budget, it's made using the obtaining rates. Within a short space of time, you're able to buy at the obtaining prices as you had budgeted according to the bill of quantities and all those things and the quotations that you had gotten. So definitely we look forward to it improving now moving forward.
Do you think the local authorities have the capacity to handle this amount of resources? I know a lot of stakeholders and others have raised concerns to say if that was the case, government would have looked at another way of maybe incorporating the office of the district commissioner into this whole process, because they are on the ground and somehow they know what really happens. So let me throw this to you. Do you think the local authorities, the ones receiving the now 28.3 million kwacha, have the capacity to handle these resources?
To start with, as CSPR, we were opposed to the suggestion that the district commissioner must be heavily involved in the CDF. Look, we are saying we are decentralizing. The district commissioner is part of central government. So when you decentralize, decentralization is about both transferring authority or decision-making powers and resources, moving them from central to the local level. So you give people money, give them the decision-making powers. The same way we've said, we were saying the minister who is at central government is the one who was approving projects for local government. But they've realized that they said, no, let's give the provincial local government officer to be doing that. So definitely we don't think it's in the interest of local community-driven development that the district commission should be heavily involved. The district commission has got their own mandate and responsibilities, and they must maintain that. For the Constituency Development Fund, there's always a question whenever we talk about the councils, the local government authorities, of capacity. But you see, the people who are working in the local government and councils, these are the people who went to the same schools as the people who are working in central government. We've got people who went to these universities who've got the same qualifications as the people at central government. So why are we saying the local authorities don't have the capacity in terms of technical and human capacity? After all, they are the ones who are found at the local government. The challenge with the local government authorities, most of them, is that they've got a lot of liabilities. Okay? So we need to make sure that we also liquidate those liabilities. Okay, some of them are owing, they are owing NIMA, they are owing ZESCO, they are owing all these institutions. Some of them are even owing their workers. And that's what used to happen with the local government utilization fund. Whenever it would go to these authorities, is that they were owing, they had salary arrears. That is where the challenge is. I don't think it's really to do with, well, if you look at it, you can call it capacity, but we feel the councils have the right human resource to be able to help administer this, but they also just have a lot of challenges which the government should be able to support to clean up. Two, the decentralization process itself has not taken, is not moving at a pace that is going to support the efficient management of the Constituency Development Fund. If you look at the CDF, it is multi-sectoral. It can support projects from any sector. Now, the issue with the decentralization process is that we were told all the public spending agencies or the departments, the government departments at the local level are going to be working under the council. The district education board secretary, the district health office, because of decentralization. So primary health care, primary education, all those were moved to where? To local government. But that process has not been completed. So even up to now, that's why we have challenges of saying, in as much as we have taken the CDF, how much powers do the local government authorities have? Because at the local when you talk about decentralization policy, what the Constitution entails, the council has also been empowered to undertake a lot of local domestic revenue mobilization and activities. So the council, in terms of technical capacity, human resource, we feel with through the local government authority, through the local government commission, they have that capacity, but we need to address some of the systematic challenges that have been affecting how efficient the councils are. Even here in Lusaka, we know that there's a challenge. There's a lot right now during the rainy season is when you find the councils are now unblocking drainages. Just even to keep sanity in the city, it's a huge challenge for the councils. So we need to look at the systematic problems that our councils have had when it comes to service delivery, to also address it, so that we have an institution that has got its house in order for it to be able to manage the CDF efficiently.
There has been arguments that the local authority, if you look at the whole setup of CDF, that is, we've got what we call WDCs, the Ward Development Committees. Some councils have argued to say we are not even the one having access to these resources. Because if you look at the WDCs, they have their own account in which this money comes. And if you have to make decisions on how to spend this money, it is the WDCs that make the decision. And then they come to ask for human resource from the council. Do you think maybe there's conflict here? That's why maybe we are not seeing things work according to the way they are with regards to having WDCs and with regards to having the local authority come in to supervise this? Because they say the Ward Development Committee have got their own account in which these resources come. And you'll find that maybe from the local authority, you only have 2 people sitting on the Ward Development Committee, which is of course comprised of different category of people, including the church, community members, the traditional leaders, and stuff like that. And these are the ones who decide. So maybe do you think there is a conflict here with how far the local authority can go in handling resources now that there is also these WDCs that have been formed?
No, of course, one of the things the experience from the CDF brought about last year were some new learnings. And then there are also case-by-case issues that we need to address. But generally, there is a CDF committee that from what we have gathered. And that Constituency Development Fund Committee, the councillors are represented, representative from the CDF, civil society organizations. We sit on some of them as CSPRI in the districts where we are working. So we feel because of the multi-actor composition of the Constituency Development Committee, it is able to manage interests from the different structures at the local level. So I think what we just need to replicate what we need to do is to replicate some best practices and working models where, for example, the CDF committees are working better, because the councillors are part of those committees, and they do participate even in the shortlisting and selection of those projects, and even when the committee proposes them now for approval to the higher authority, they are part. Similar with the council, the executive of the local government authorities at the council level, they are also part of those committees, and the council has got is the main institution that is mandated to manage those funds. But of course, the ward development committees, if you look at even the WDC guidelines, they have their mandate, and they are key. They are key structure in local economic development, as well as in the management of this CDF. And the guidelines are very clear for the WDCs. They do help in sensitization. You can't do away with them, because when the CDF is out, the people who go to sensitize and mobilize in all the villages and communities are actually the ward development committee. So you can't substitute them from this equation. Two, the WDCs themselves, they don't necessarily handle any funds. It's members of that community who receive the fund, and they start implementing a project. If it's an economic empowerment program, the role of the WDC is actually to monitor at the local level that things are happening. But you see, where the problem has been is that we haven't taken into consideration the capacity of the WDCs. These are voluntary, by the way. They are not paid anything. They don't have offices. WDCs are not entitled to have an office. These are just groups of people in a community who stand up to say, I'm going to represent my zone, and then they form a WDC. And they can meet anywhere. They can meet at a school, they can meet at a what. They are not supported with transport, by the way. They use their own bicycles, or they walk in the community. So there is another point that I would want to emphasize on for the CDF to work efficiently and in an accountable manner. The ward development committees must be provided with a certain empowerment, even a percentage. We haven't really looked at the details of the proposed changes to the Act, but a certain percentage of the CDF administration budget, it must go to support ward WDCs, even just to buy the motorcycles or bicycles, because they go over very vast wards to go and inspect how is the project moving, have people received their funding, and now they have started again, going around sensitizing communities, teaching them how to apply, who is eligible. So we feel that conflict has been happening in other wards, but generally I think because the Constituency Development Committee also includes people from the WDC and the council and the local government authorities, interests are managed, interests from different stakeholders and structures are managed at that level.
Civil Society for Poverty Reduction Programs Coordinator, Mr. Eddie Musosa, is with us in studio this morning, and we are discussing CDF and its impact on poverty eradication. Is this the solution to the increasing population? Remember, according to the Zambia Statistical Agency, the country's population now stands at 19.47 million people as of 2022, because census was conducted last year, and poverty levels, according to the survey that was done in 2015, was at 54%. But looking at the shocks that have happened between 2015 and now, it is possible that poverty levels have even gone up in the country. Does CDF address these challenges? This is a topic that we've been discussing, and Mr. Eddie has given very powerful submissions. In case you've missed them, this program is being streamed live on our Facebook page. You can just go through and listen to the conversation that we are having. And I know stakeholders and policymakers are equally listening to what Mr. Musosa is saying this morning. As we come to the dying end of the program, ending poverty in Zambia, what will it take for us to end poverty in Zambia? And is it possible that poverty can actually be eradicated?
Yes, it's possible that poverty can be eradicated, and how you eradicate is by addressing the individual poverty one by one, step by step. This is not something, make no mistake, it's not something that can be done overnight. but with deliberate policies aimed at us progressively reducing. Look, if we're standing at 54%, we must aim each year that we are reducing. Timely monitoring of poverty levels then becomes very key. If we're not monitoring the poverty levels, we're going to be coming up with programs. You see, the challenge you have also in this country is that you come up with a poverty reduction program and you start celebrating that we've reduced poverty. No, you need to go and monitor. You need to look at how effective it is, what is really happening. So we're not saying social cash transfer, all these have reduced poverty until you start monitoring your poverty. You've got updated statistics. So yes, poverty can be ended. I'll give you an example of if you look at the living conditions monitoring survey. Some of the provinces previously were considered to be the poorest, but as a result of maybe economic development, industrialization, more people being employed, it has resulted in them their poverty profile improving. They're no longer at the bottom of the table. Two, we need to invest heavily in sustainable livelihoods. We need to give our people the ability to generate income for themselves. We have to bring about, especially the productive segment of the population, to support these MSMEs so that they're able to be productive and they're able to engage in livelihood activities that they can sustain over time. That also requires heavy investments in our education infrastructure, in our learning, in our curriculum, in our learning institutions. That becomes critical. Three, this is a very, very important point, and it is the means through which all this can work. Being inclusive in decision making when it comes to poverty reduction. Not just making decisions from Lusaka without involving the people who are directly involved. A very nice program will come. We've seen village banking initiatives supported by the government. They put in a lot of money as seed money. When you go there today, those village banks have collapsed. People have run away with money. They haven't paid. We had the Youth Development Fund under the Patriotic Front. The same thing happened. A lot of money was released. And we are looking to say if all that money was put to use in a much more structured, coordinated and accountable and consultative manner, that money would have had a lot of impact on poverty levels. Lastly, we need to be deliberate about who we are targeting. Women are the majority in the population, both in the population and also in the population of people who are poor. So let us provide interventions that deliberately, economically empower women so that, they're also contributing to the household just like the head of household. That way, you sort of uplift the living conditions. We target people who are staying in certain areas which we know, in certain geographical regions where we know there's high levels of poverty, like Luapula and Western Province. Let's invest heavily in industrializing those areas, providing safety nets, and also targeting specific groups like those people with disabilities. It's very disheartening for a country that boasts to be spending so much on social cash transfer. Today you go on the streets, you find a disabled person is sitting on a tarmac begging. Where are all these houses, homes where these people are supposed to be taken? Where are the community development officers to make sure that these people are receiving the adequate support on a daily basis? So we feel those are the four main points that we see currently in our system. There are gaps, and we need to scale up. The biggest problem is that we are just not doing enough. We need to do more than we are doing now.
Civil Society for Poverty Reduction Programs Coordinator, Mr. Edim Sosa, was with us in studio, and we were discussing CDF and its impact on poverty eradication. Is this the solution to the increase in population? Remember, Zambia's population currently stands at 19.47 million people, and poverty levels is at its peak, considering the shocks that we've had. in the past few years. We know this is not really confirmed, but the Zambia Statistical Agency did carry out a poverty survey, and of course they are yet to release it to see where we are at. So this was our program today, and I hope we have learned one or two things. Policymakers, I know you are listening and you are hearing to this program. Some of the solutions that we have to what is happening in our economy lies within us and in people like civil society organizations. So thank you so much for everyone who accompanied us on our Facebook page. I was trying to get some messages there, and of course those who are watching, Shami there, Shami asking, that's a good name. I don't know which part of Zambia you're coming from, but we appreciate your viewership. Pamela Mtale, they are watching from Kasama. We appreciate you. Bresto, Chikasha, and others. I might not mention the whole lot of you, but we appreciate your company on this program this morning. Till next time, it has been your host, Prudence Chota, and the entire Camnet TV production team. It's bye for now, and God bless you.